Okay, your textbook should be open to page 112. Your vocab notebook should be open up to yesterday's vocab from chapter 4, lesson 1. Go ahead and draw a squiggly line under number 2, or Aaron, go about like a fourth of the page down, draw your squiggly line, and then write today's date. February 2nd, 2021. The date on in all places is now correct. And we're going to start with number 3. And then go ahead and put your vocab notebook underneath your textbook so that your textbook is there ready to be read. Lena, please read on page 112. Loud and slow so that the video can pick you up and so that your eyes are reading before, at the same time as your brain.
Climate. The climate in the northeast
Varies
across the region. It also changes from season to season.
Okay. Keep going. Make sure to read subheadings.
4 seasons. The northeast has 4 very different seasons. Winters are mostly cold and snowy. In spring, the weather is warm and sunny. Flowers bloom and trees are covered with bright green leaves. Summers are often hot and rainy.
So, every time you get to the end of a paragraph like that, pause. So, in the Northeast, they do have 4 very different seasons. What are winters like? What are winters like in the Northeast? Aaron.
They're mostly cold and snowy.
They're cold and snowy. Are our winters here cold and snowy? No. They're cold, but it pretty rarely snows. And even when it does snow, it only sticks around for like maybe a day. We did have that one week a couple years ago where it stuck around for but that was really, the snow didn't even really stick around. It was really only the ice. So no, we would not consider our region to be cold and snowy. It does get cold, but not snowy. What are summers like in the Northeast? Smith.
Hot and rainy.
Hot and rainy, like the opposite. Winters are very cold and snowy. Summers are hot and rainy. Are our summers very rainy here? No, they're pretty dry, right? They're definitely hot. So we can already see how the Northeast and the Southeast are really, really different. What is spring like in the Northeast? Colin.
Warm and sunny.
Warm and sunny. Okay, so their seasons are very different. Here, is our spring very different? Is our early spring very different from our winter? Is our late spring very different from our summer? Is our early fall very different from our summer? Think about it. Is September very different from August? Is our late fall very different from winter? Is our December very different from our January? Not really. But is our June very different from our January? Oh yeah. So we basically have 2 seasons down in the Southeast. We have summer and we have winter. And then we have maybe a couple days where it's like spring. And then maybe a couple days where it's like fall. Where it's cool. It's either cold or it's hot here. That's just how it is. Up north, they get to have all 4 of those seasons. They have a few months of really cold and snowy. They have a few months of really hot and rainy. They have a few months of nice and fall weather. And they have a few months of nice spring weather. Unlike us. Okay, read next, me. During the cool autumns, the leaves turn orange, red, and gold before they fall to the ground. This makes most trees bare during the winter seasons. However, some trees, such as pines, stay green throughout the year. Now, is that very different from what happens here in the fall? Lena?
Not really, but it's true with pine. Not really, but it's true with pine trees.
Not really. Like, that's pretty much the same thing that happens here. The leaves turn like orange and red and yellow, and then they fall off, and the trees are bare, but we do also have the pine trees. Not as many as maybe they have, but we do have the pine trees that stay green throughout the year. Read next. Michaela, loud and slow. Make sure you're following along. That shows me that not only are you trying to make sure that your brain is reading while somebody else is reading, but it also shows me that you're not zoning out.
Variety.
Variety.
Variety. Even during the same season, the climate in the northeast varies from place to place. In general,
That's
the
not where we are
region
going.
is colder in the north and warmer in the south. Also, coastal areas have warm climates that than inland appears.
Not appears. It's not the word appears. Look at it again. So try the sentence again. You read one word a little off, and I think that threw you off for the whole sentence. So go back to the beginning of that sentence also and start again.
Also, coastal areas have warm climates.
So that's where it's throwing you off. You're looking at the beginning of the word and guessing what it is. But look at that word. Is that the word warm? Look at the whole word, Michaela. Is that the word warm? Is it the word warm? Yes or no? No.
Yeah.
So what's happening is your brain is reading warm, but your brain is realizing it doesn't make sense if the word warm is there. And so then it's throwing you off for the rest of the sentence. You're like, this sentence makes no sense. I have no idea where we're going. What is happening? So go back and make sure you're reading every word exactly as it appears so that your brain doesn't start to get like, what is happening? That doesn't make sense. I don't know what's coming next because it doesn't make sense. So go back and try again. Also,
Coastal areas have warmer climates than inland areas, especially those in the high mountains.
so see, I know you know the word warmer. I know you know it. Like I know you don't, it's not that you don't know the word, it's just that your brain is going too fast. And when your brain goes too fast, it all starts to jumble up and nothing makes sense. And then you're just like, this word, I see that it's areas, but that can't come next because it doesn't make sense with what I read earlier. But it does, you just have to make sure you read the whole thing correctly. If you read the whole thing correctly, your brain won't start to get confused, like this word can't come next because it doesn't make sense. Well, it doesn't make sense because a word that you read earlier wasn't what was written. So that's why you have to make sure that you're letting your brain read every word before you say it, otherwise it won't make sense. Okay, well we already know all about that because what we learned in science, right? We know that it's colder in the north than it is in the south. Why is it colder in the north than it is in the south? Victoria.
Because it's closer to the poles and far away from the equator.
Good. It's colder in the north than it is in the south because the north is closer to the poles, the North Pole, and farther from the equator. Then it also says that coastal areas have warmer climates than inland areas. Why is that? Why is it warmer on the coast than it is inland? Zadie.
Because the coast is closer to the equator than...
Is the coast closer to the equator? Like the Atlantic coast? The Atlantic coast goes north and south. So that's not what it is. Why are the coastal areas warmer than the inland areas? Smith.
Because they are closer to the equator, and the equator is very warm.
Coastal areas are not all closer to the equator. The Atlantic coast runs like this, north and south. I'll draw it more like this side of it. Here's the Atlantic coast. The equator is way down here. So why would it be warmer here than here? They're both the exact same distance from the equator, but why is it warmer in this city than it is in this city? They're both in the northeast. They're both exactly the same distance from the equator, but this one's on the coast and this one's inland. Zadie, you want to try again? Sorry, I just noticed your hand.
Because the water coming from the equator is warm.
You guys are stuck on the equator. We did a whole chapter. There was only one section about latitude. Yes, latitude does make the climate warmer, but that's not the only thing. Zari.
I'm thinking the air from the equator is going upward.
Hey, you're stuck on the equator. That's exactly what Smith said. I just said you guys are stuck on the equator. Doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the equator. Smith?
The sun heats the water, and then it goes through the water cycle, and the wind blows towards the coast.
Well,
and
it's
heats up
because
the coast.
the sun heats the water quicker than it heats land. Coastal areas are right near the water. Think about it. If you put your hand next to some boiling water, do you feel the heat coming from the hot water? Yes. So the sun has heated the water quicker than it's heated the land. So that means this area that's right near the water is going to get the heat coming from the water. Is this area going to get the heat coming from that water? No, it's too far away. And the ground doesn't heat up as quickly as water. So it doesn't have anything to do with the equator. It has to do with where it is in relation to water. So remember, we learned that in science. Places that are near large bodies of water are warmer than inland areas because of the sun heating up the water quicker than the land. Okay. Read next. And some of you zoned out, so you won't be able to repeat that if I asked you to. Colin, read next.
Extreme weather. At times, the northeast weather can be extreme. Blizzards or snowstorms with strong winds sometimes occur.
Okay, what's our next word? Colin?
Blizzards.
Blizzards. Remember, please don't take a really long time because you're struggling to read the definition up here. Where else do you have the definition so that you don't have to spend a long time struggling? Mason? In the book. Colin, what is a blizzard?
Snowstorms with strong winds sometimes occur.
Is sometimes occur part of that definition?
Oh, no.
What is the definition? But listen to how I said it. What is a blizzard? Or, okay, never mind. I have blizzards here. What are blizzards? Tell me.
A snowstorm with strong winds.
So if I had said blizzard, it would be a snowstorm with strong winds, which is what I thought I wrote. That's why I had you say that. But since I said blizzards, you were right the first time. What is it?
Snowstorms with strong wind.
Snowstorms with strong winds. Now the purpose for that, which, oh well, but you need to know. If your vocab word is singular, that means your definition needs to be singular. If your vocab word is plural, that means your vocab is plural. So if this had been blizzard, we would have written A, snowstorm with strong winds. Because a blizzard can't be more than one snowstorm with strong winds, it's just one. But since I wrote blizzards, then it means snowstorms with strong winds, multiple. Okay, Colin, when you're ready, keep reading.
These storms can block roads, knock down power lines, and damage buildings. In 2005, a blizzard brought record amounts of snow to these regions.
Okay, record and record are like live and live. If it's a verb, it's record and it's live. Like I recorded the song on the radio, or I live in Memphis. If it's a noun, it's a record. Like it broke the record for snow. Or it's live, like, or life. There are 8 lives in this classroom, whatever, okay? So noun, it's record. Verb, it's record. Just like verb, it's live. Noun, it's lives or life. So make sure when you're reading it and you have lives or lives or record or record, look, is it supposed to be a noun or is it supposed to be a verb? Is it supposed to be a person, place, thing, or idea, or is it supposed to be an action? So what effects can blizzards sometimes cause? What effects do blizzards sometimes cause? This is a listening exercise. Girls at home, you'll be able to listen because I'll repeat. Aaron, tell me one thing. They can block roads. Tell me another thing. Zari.
Knock down power lines.
They can knock down power lines. Mason, tell me another.
They can damage buildings.
They can damage buildings. Good. Okay, next. Now this one's really important, so please make sure you're listening because we will see these every single chapter and I will ask you lots of questions about it. Zari, please read next.
Natural resources. The Northeast has many natural resources. Many people in the region use the resources to make a living.
Keep going.
Farming. The northern parts of the region have rocky soil and cool climate. Yet people still farm there. They grow potatoes, blueberries, and cranberries. They also use greenhouses to grow crops such as flowers and shrubs.
Shrubs.
Scrubs.
Shrubs. Shrubs. Shrubs.
Say it.
Shrubs. So no C. Just try it. Try it on your own, okay? Shrubs. Okay. So let's look at these crops. Are these crops that we have around here? Potatoes, blueberries, cranberries, flowers, shrubs. Do we need a lot of them to make other things? Do we need a lot of those things to make other things? No. So what do you think about the sizes of those farms? Based on the fact that they have rocky soil and a cool climate, and that these are like small things, and we don't really need a lot of them for things. What do you think about the sizes of those farms? Aaron? They're not very big. Which is good because if you have a lot of rocky soil and a cool climate, are you going to be able to keep a very big farm? Like, are you going to be able to have enough space to put a very big farm? No, like there's lots of mountains up in the north. But now think of the crops we grow around here. What kind of crops do we grow around here? Zari.
We grow like carrots.
Do we grow a lot of carrots around here? If we do, I don't know about it. Think about it. Corn, wheat, soybeans. We use those in a lot of other things, right? Like if we're using blueberries, we're using them because they're blueberries. But if we're growing corn, we need it for cattle feed. We need it to make flour. We need it for all kinds of things. So we need wheat. We need it for all kinds of bread. We need it for all kinds of, literally for flour, for anything. Almost anything we eat probably has some kind of flour in it, which is made out of wheat. Soybeans, we use those for a lot of things. So what does that tell you about the size of those farms? Cullen?
The farms are probably very, very big.
They need to be big because we need a lot of it. But we have the space down here, right? What do we not have a lot of down in the southeast? Mason? What do we not have a lot of down in the southeast? Carla?
Rocky soil.
Okay, we don't have rocky soil. We have fertile soil, but what? I'm looking for a landform. Kingston. Mountains, because again, like I said, like we just said a minute ago, if you were listening to me and not zoning out and looking at pictures in your book and thinking about other stuff. I said when Aaron, I think it was Aaron answered this question, I said blueberries, cranberries, potatoes. We don't use them much in other things, so we don't need big farms. Well, we can't have big farms. No, it was Zadie that said this. They can't have big farms up north because, well, there's mountains in the way. So you don't have a lot of space, but we don't have those mountains, so we do have a lot of space. Because we don't have mountains, that's part of why our soil's not rocky. Because mountains are made out of what? Lena? Rocks. So if there's lots of mountains, well, the soil's going to be rocky. We don't have a lot of mountains down here, so there's really not much rocks. So we have lots of space because there's not mountains in the way, and we have good soil because there's really no mountains nearby. Read next. Kingston. Loud and slow.
Farther south, on the more fertile soil of the coastal plain, farming is a larger industry. Corn and other vegetables are major crops.
Now, that doesn't mean farther south is in the southeast. That just means the southern parts of the northeast. So if we look at this land use and resources map, which we know how to use, if you were listening when we did that lesson back in late December, you know the colors represent the land uses and the pictures represent the resources. Now, what Kingston means is not the southeast. It just means the southern part of the northeast. So the coastal plain, remember the mountains start close to the ocean, up in like Maine, and then go diagonally and get further and further and further away from the ocean. So these southern parts, like Delaware and southeastern Pennsylvania and New Jersey, they're able to have a lot more farms for things like wheat and corn. Why? Think about what we talked about. Why do you think? It's in the coastal plain. So why do you think they're able to have more farming for these large crops? Lena?
Because they have a lot of space.
They have more space because if it's the coastal plain, what are there less of in that area?
Mountains.
Mountains. Very good. I realize I'm backwards. Mountains. So there's more space. There's less rocky soil. Carla, read next.
The inland hills and valleys provides pasture grass for dairy cows. Milk from the dairy cows, is used to make products such as cheese and ice cream.
Okay.
I'm sorry for the background sound.
That's okay. That's okay. As long as your voice is louder, like since you have that microphone, you can put your voice right up to it. And then we hear you, even though we hear the background sounds a little bit, we hear you more. So that's okay. That happens, I know. Very good. Okay, read next. Me. Oops. Make sure you're following along with your finger. That shows me that you are paying attention. You are not zoning out. Mining stone. Some people mine stone to earn a living. Every state in the region has stone quarries. A quarry is a large open pit cut into the ground from which stone is mined. So, number 4 is the word quarry. Quarry, which is a large open pit cut into the ground from which stone is mined. Now this is not a large pit, like this is massive. It's like huge. You can see a picture of one up at the top of page 113. Like look at the size of that crane. It looks small compared to the rest of the quarry behind it. Quarries are massive. They're not just like little pits in the ground, like a little ditch. I mean, it's massive. It goes way down deep. Sometimes after quarries are abandoned, like they've gotten all the stone they want from it and they just leave, they fill with water and they become really deep, big lakes. I'll give everybody another minute to write the definition. Yes.
We can't really see the crane.
Well, but you can see part of the crane. You can see the arm of the crane. You know those are big. But does it look very big compared to the quarry? And you can see like it's got a little, like people can fit in there, in that thing that's hanging down from it. You can see people in it if you look closely. So look how small the people look. Yes, Zadie.
I wonder, like you said, if they're done with if they've gotten all the stone they want from it, or the kind of rocks they want.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, they fill it up with water. I wonder if they put like fish in it.
Maybe over time it just happens. I don't know. Yes, sorry. I told you not to keep your book like that. Yes, sorry.
Did they ever name those lakes after?
I'd say they probably, if they name them, it's just named after whatever company owned the quarry, if they name them at all. Okay. Quarries in the region produce a large amount of granite and marble. New Hampshire and Vermont have many of these quarries. People use these stones to make buildings, bridges, roads, statues, and even kitchen counters. What do they have a lot of up north? That means they can do these quarries. They can create these quarries in order to get stone. What do they have a lot of up in the Northeast? Think about it. Which means they can create these quarries. Why do we not have a lot of quarries around here? Victoria? What do they have a lot of up north? And we don't have it, which is also probably why we don't have many quarries.
What they have a lot of is like big spaces.
But we already talked about with farms, they don't have a lot of big spaces. Kingston? They have a lot of mountains. Stone is a synonym for what? Stone is a synonym for what? Lena?
Coal.
Not coal. Zari?
My brother stone and rock.
Rock. Yeah, stone and rocks. Stone is a synonym for rock. So if they're getting stone, they're getting rocks. What is made out of rocks? That we don't have a lot of, but the Northeast does have a lot of, Kingston. Mountains. So if we don't have a lot of rocks, is it a good idea to try to mine for stone in western Tennessee? No, because there's probably not a lot of rock. There's really no mountains, so there's not a lot of rock. You have to dig real, real deep in our ground to get to the rock. Real deep. Whereas there, they have these tall things that are made out of stones. They don't have to dig that deep because it's right there. Now let's look at that sentence, the second sentence of that paragraph I just read. Every state in the region has stone quarries. Does that mean just some of them? Zadie, yes or no?
No.
No. Does that mean most of them? Colin, yes or no?
No.
No. If it says every state in the region has stone quarries, and there are 11 states in the region, how many states have stone quarries? Carla. Oh, you're still muted.
A few.
If it says every state, I don't see your hand raised. If it says every state in the region has stone quarries and there are 11 states in the region, how many states have stone quarries? Everybody should be able to answer this. Everybody should have their hand up. Aaron. 11. Does every state mean the same thing as most states? Does every state mean the same thing as nearly every state? Every state means every state, right? Doesn't mean just some of them. Doesn't mean nearly all of them. Doesn't mean most of them. It means all of them. Every state means all of the states. Let's look at this diagram up at the top. Remember, colors mean how the land is used, which means we use the land to do something. Symbols mean what we get from the land, the resources. What do we get from it? We don't create this thing. We get it out of the land. So let's look at these pictures. Where do we see a lot of dairy farming? What state do we see the most dairy farming in? Mason.
New York.
New York. How did you know that?
Because it was yellow in New York, and then the yellow, and then like a little
So what color means dairy farming?
yellow.
Yellow. So they use the land for dairy farming. What state has the most yellow in it?
New York.
New York. How did you know it was New York? I don't see New York. I don't see the word New York. How did you know it was New York?
Because there's a NY in New York.
NY. So do you see why I gave you the states and abbreviations? Because we're going to see this in every single chapter. And you need to know which state is which. That's why I made you memorize the abbreviations. Those of you who took the time and the effort to memorize, well, you're not going to be the reason why this lesson takes longer than it should. Those of you who did not take the time to memorize, well, you're going to be the reason that it's going to take this lesson longer than it should. Okay. Where do we see a lot of fish and shellfish? Where do we see a lot of fish and shellfish? Kingston. Along the coast. Is that a resource or a way we use the land? A resource, because it's a, is it a picture or a symbol? It's a symbol. I'm sorry, a color or a symbol? It's a symbol. Symbols are resources, colors are land uses. Also, fish are things we can actually take from the ground, right? They're things we can hold in our hand. Can we hold dairy farming in our hand? No. So that's something we do. Can we hold manufacturing in our hands? No. It's something we do. We use the land to do it. Can we hold general farming in our hands? No, it's something that we do with the land. Can we hold forests in our hand? No, it's something we do with the land, or we use it for forests. Can we hold coal in our hand? Can we use the land to coal? Can we coal? Is that even something we can do? No. Can we hold marble in our hand? Can we use the land to marble? Can we hold shellfish in our hand? Can we use the land to shellfish? No. I didn't use the word fish because fish is both a noun and an adjective. I mean a verb, sorry. Because yes, we can hold a fish in our hand and we can use the land to fish, but are they talking about like the fish that we hold, that we see, or are they talking about fishing when they show this picture? Colin,
Fishing.
are they? Fishing is something we do or use the land for, which they use what? Colors or pictures? What do they use to show how we use the land? Colors or pictures? Come on, Colin, you know this. Stop looking at the picture and think of the question. What shows what we use the land for? Colors or pictures?
Pictures.
Can somebody help her out? Smith, what do we see that tells us that the land is used for something? Colors or pictures?
Colors.
Colors. Every time, colors or patterns, if it's black and white, show us how the land is used. Smith, what do they show? What do they use to show that it is a resource, something that we can take from the land?
Pictures or symbols.
Pictures or symbols. So, Cullen, since we have fish as a picture, are they talking about fishing, a way to use the land? Or are they talking about the fish that we can take from the land?
Fish we can take from.
Fish we can take from the land. Make sure you're listening to the whole question. Okay, turn the page. Zadie, read next.
Using trees. The region's forests make logging an important industry. This is especially true in Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. People cut down trees to use as lumber. They also use trees to make products such as toothpicks and paper. People also use trees to produce food. Many farmers grow fruits such as apples and pears. Others collect sap, a liquid from maple trees. Sap is used to make maple syrup.
Okay. Zari, read next.
Fishing. Fishing is an important industry for people living along the coast. The Atlantic Ocean provides cod,
Haddock, there's no N. Haddock, there's no N after there's no H-A-N-D. It's just H-A-D. So haddock or haddock.
and plenty of oysters and lobster.
Remember, O-Y together, say oi. So that would be what word?
Oysters.
Oysters and lobsters. Okay, keep going.
People also catch freshwater fish in the region's many lakes and rivers.
Okay? How do some people in the Northeast use trees to earn a living? How do some people in the Northeast use trees to earn a living? Ethan? Well, what industry do they work for? Or do they work in? What's the name of that industry? Logging. So they work in the logging industry. What's the purpose of the logging industry? Victoria. Victoria, what's the purpose of the logging industry? What do?
People cut down trees to use as lumber.
To use as lumber. Good. What else do people in the Northeast use trees for? Carla?
They use it to make.
Carla, we can't really hear you. Put the microphone closer to your mouth.
They collect a liquid from a maple tree that is called maple syrup.
Well, it's not maple syrup, but what is
And
this
it's
stuff?
sap.
And then they use sap to make what?
Maple syrup.
Maple syrup. And what's one more way that people in the Northeast use trees to earn a living? Lena?
For paper and toothpicks.
For paper and toothpicks. Okay, one more way, sorry. Two more, so there are two more ways. So yes, paper and toothpicks, because we do, that's important with lumber. Colin?
People also use trees to produce food.
To produce food. So logging is really important. We need it for lumber, toothpicks, paper. That all kind of goes with logging. We need it for fruits. Most fruits, or I think all fruits grow on a tree. And we need it for, not all fruits, but a lot of fruits grow on a tree. And then we need it to make maple syrup. Who likes pancakes? Who likes waffles? What do you put on your waffles and pancakes? Class? Syrup. Yes, Lena.
Maple syrup.
Yes, go quickly. Make sure to go during lunch and recess. Okay, read the last little summary. Ethan, loud and slow. And then I'll tell you about your homework. Louder.
The Northeast had
Very.
varied landscape and climate with 4 seasons.
Not seasons, but
Seasons. The region has many natural resources. People have used them to create important industries.
Okay, so remember we learned, is the Northeast big or small? Mason.
It's kind of big.
Ethan?
Small.
It's small. The first sentence of this lesson, I think it was the first sentence other than the you are there, is, the first sentence on page 111. Everybody look at 111. The very first sentence says, the Northeast is the smallest in the United States in terms of size. But look at all this stuff they have. They have 4 seasons. Think of the Southeast. Think of the states that you can think of that are Southeast. It is big. It is massive. But yet, how many seasons do we typically have? I mean, I know we call them 4. But think about the weather. How many seasons do we actually have, weather-wise? Smith?
Like 3?
2 or 3. 3 in a lucky year. We get cool weather rather than cold or hot, like for 5 days out of the year. We get perfect weather, like 5 days out of the year. Otherwise, it's too cold or it's too hot or it's too rainy or it's too something. So, and also think of our landscape. What is the southeastern landscape mostly? I know we have some mountains, but what do we mostly have in the southeast? Zadie.
It's mostly kind of flat.
It's mostly flat. We have mostly plains. Yet the Northeast, that is so small, has 4 seasons, 4 very different seasons when it comes to weather, lots of different landforms, and all different kinds of industries. So just because a place is small, does that mean it doesn't have a lot to offer? Definitely not. The Northeast is a good example of that. Okay, I'm going to pass out homework to those of you at school. Okay, so everybody look at the directions. It says, read each sentence about the geography of the Northeast. Decide whether each statement is true or false. Then there's an extra direction that I added that I'm sure you guys aren't too surprised about. Make false statements true. So that means there is a word in the false statements that's the opposite of what it should be. Cross out the word that is wrong to make it false. Still write false on the line, F. But cross out the word that makes it false and write the word that'll make it true. Number 1. We're going to do it together. The Northeast is the largest physical region of the United States. Is that true or false? Kingston. False. Now, there's one word that makes that statement false. What is the one word that makes it false, Kingston? Largest. We're going to make it true. So we're going to cross out largest, and we're going to write what, Kingston? Smallest. It's your choice. But the original statement was what, Kingston? The original statement, the typed statement, was it true or false? So what goes on the line, a T or an F? F. But then you have to make it true by crossing out what word, Kingston? Largest. And writing what word to make it true? Smallest. So does everybody understand what I mean? If it's true, are you changing anything? No, because it's true. You will need your book for this. Okay, go ahead and put that in your return to school. It is due tomorrow.